Jaidyn, sis, listen up. Buckle up, because this one is a full-blown situation and the internet is nowhere near ready. After years of holding this woman's name hostage in every headline about Blueface, the man himself finally forced her to open her mouth on live stream. And what came out was not what any of these gossip aggregators were expecting. Jaidyn Alexis just put her ex-fiancé on a public timeout, and she didn't even raise her voice to do it. No shouting, no caps lock, no fake cry tirade for the algorithm. Just a woman standing over a stove, half glancing at her chat, dismantling an entire narrative with a spoon in her hand. Look, before we get into the calm and collected part, I need y'all to sit with what she was actually reacting to, because this is the piece the tabloids are refusing to lay out cleanly. Blueface stood in front of a camera, held up 2 pregnancy tests, called the first one inconclusive, then flipped to the second one, kissed Nevaeh Akira's stomach, and shouted that she was having a Blueface baby. 4th child, 3rd mother, and a Mercedes reportedly parked outside like a party favor. That's the scene. That's the tape. That's the montage the internet keeps rewinding. And within hours, every comment section on this app pivoted from the pregnancy itself to a single, unhinged question. How is Jaidyn Alexis going to take this? Not how is Nevaeh Akira feeling? Not what does this mean for the older children? Not anything about the woman who is actually carrying this baby. Just, what will Jaidyn Alexis do? Trust and believe, this is where the story flips. Because Jaidyn Alexis didn't post a passive-aggressive quote card. She didn't disappear for a week, and that reaction, that specific, almost bored reaction, is what has this entire corner of the internet in a chokehold right now. Because for a woman who has been treated like the emotional referee of Blueface in time, and she chose door number 3, and then, without ever using his name, she said the sentence that has been ricocheting across every clip account for days. She said she is not putting her life on the line again for a person who is not that. She did not say Blueface. She did not have to. The audience filled in the blank in real time. Every clip account, every gossip page, every reaction thumbnail. The blank was filled the same way, the same second, in every corner of the app. And look, y'all know I have to be honest with you. Jaidyn Alexis has spent nearly a decade of her adult life being defined publicly by a man she is no longer with. That is not opinion. That is what makes this one land differently, is the audience's absolute refusal to let Jaidyn Alexis exit the story. Within hours of the Nevaeh Akira, it only requires conflict, reproduction. None of it has asked whether the existing arrangements with Jaidyn Alexis and Chrisean Rock have quietly been renegotiated in the background. That's not because reporters aren't curious. Family court records involving support and custody are generally sealed unless one of the parties chooses to speak on them publicly. And none of the 3 women involved has done that in any detail. Which means the numbers stay invisible. Which means the outrage stays cheap. Which means the emotional theater fills a vacuum that a serious conversation about the actual welfare of 4 children could otherwise occupy. What the audience sees is the emotional theater. What matters more to the children involved is the private administrative reality. 3 parallel support arrangements. 3 parallel custody structures. All sensitive to every visible shift in Blueface finances or his relationship status. Every time a Mercedes gets tossed on Instagram as a gift, that visible flex becomes evidence in a hypothetical support hearing. Every time a stream goes viral, that view count becomes potential documented income. This is not tabloid framing. This is the actual mechanics of what happens when a man broadcasts his lifestyle to millions while sharing custody with women he no longer speaks to civilly. And the truth is, none of the 3 women in this story get to opt out of that math. Not Jaidyn Alexis. Not Chrisean Rock. Not Nevaeh Akira. They are all, in one form or another, financial stakeholders in his visibility. Speaking of that Mercedes, take it to the bank. That detail is not a random flex. Around the same time Nevaeh Akira was posting maternity photos, Blueface reportedly gifted her a Mercedes-Benz, and in isolation, that reads like an ordinary early relationship lifestyle move. Set against the pattern with Chrisean Rock, set against whatever material arrangements existed with Jaidyn Alexis during their relationship, it becomes a recognizable cycle. Grand public gestures early. Loud, public conflict later. Then the next chapter begins with a fresh grand public gesture. Whether that is a conscious strategy or just how Blueface behaves when he is newly attached is impossible to say from the outside. What can be said is that the pattern is on tape. The car is on tape. The pregnancy reveal is on tape. The maternity shoot is on tape. The next argument, whenever it arrives, will be on tape too. This is a discography of relationship milestones now, not songs. And look, this whole cycle would be one story if it stayed private. It is a different story entirely because Carlisa Saffold, Blueface's mother, has made a career out of publicly narrating every transition inside her son's romantic life. She congratulated the new pregnancy. She framed children as a blessing regardless of which relationship produced. It refused to deliver the meltdown the format was built to sell. It denied the audience the specific frame it had been trained to expect. And in doing so, it forced the audience to look, for the first time in years, at the format itself. And that composure has a cost. Read the comment sections underneath every clip of that cooking stream response, and you'll see two audiences at war. One audience is celebrating her, reading the calm as growth, as boundaries, as a woman finally choosing peace over performance. The other audience is picking her apart, reading the same calm as suspicious, as staged, as its own kind of subliminal. The truth is, both audiences are reading her through a filter Blueface built. He built the audience that treats calm as suspicious. He built the audience that treats silence as loud. He built the ecosystem where a Twitch stream about pasta is decoded as a coded threat. Which means Jaidyn Alexis, no matter how still she stays, is still, at some level, being interpreted through his lens. Escaping that interpretive frame is arguably the harder, longer project. Now let's talk about what Nevaeh Akira is walking into. Because the maternity photos are cute, and the due date caption is soft, and the domestic optimism is real, but there is a machine humming underneath all of it. Look at the comment sections under Nevaeh Akira's own posts. Half the commenters aren't even. She is walking onto a stage where the lighting is already set, the marks are already taped, and the script has been rehearsed with 2 previous leads. You already know I've got the popcorn ready for whatever comes next, but let me be real about one thing. There is a version of the story that runs exactly the same way it has run before. Grand public gesture, louder public gesture, then a viral fight, then a live stream apology, then a paternity conversation, then a co-parenting arrangement negotiated in Instagram comments. The template exists. The template has been rehearsed. And unless somebody chooses to step off the stage, the template runs itself. The template does not require anyone's consent. The template does not check on the participants. It just executes. Then there is another version. A version where Jaidyn Alexis' quiet composed response is not the end of the drama, but the beginning of a different kind of drama. A version where a woman who has spent nearly a decade being defined by her ex quietly decouples her public identity from his career. A version where she takes the calm and the peace and the pasta on the stove energy and turns it into a full rebrand. She is a Twitch streamer. She is a mother of 2. She has a documented, receipt-friendly account of what it was like to grow up in public alongside a man who was building a brand out of romantic chaos. That is not just personal history. In this economy, that is a book. That is a docuseries. That is an entire second act. And that second act, if she chooses to build it, does not require Blueface cooperation, permission, or attention. And here's where I want to pump the brakes for a second, because there is a real question hanging over this next stretch, and every gossip account is dodging it. What about the children? 2 of Blueface's children live in Jaidyn Alexis' household. One is being raised by Korean Rock. A 4th is on the way with Nevaeh Akira. These 4 kids will grow up in an information environment their parents built for them. One where every argument between the adults is preserved on a phone somewhere. Where every accusation and every clapback and every live stream is searchable. Where every child eventually will Google their own parents and find footage that would have been unthinkable to publish in a previous era. That is not a small thing. That is the actual long-term consequence of raising a family in the algorithm. That is the receipt no one wants to open. The receipt where the price of every viral clip is a childhood question that will one day get asked out loud. Jaidyn Alexis' calm might be the smartest move any of the adults in this story have made in years. Because a woman who refuses to feed the machine is a woman who is starving the archive her children will one day inherit. Every meltdown that doesn't happen is one fewer viral clip her kids will have to explain to a partner in 10 years. Every unposted subliminal is one fewer receipt sitting in a screenshot folder somewhere. Whether her calm is genuine or strategic almost doesn't matter. The effect is the same. She is choosing to be boring on camera. In an economy that pays for chaos, choosing boring is the loudest possible move. Choosing boring is the equivalent of choosing to protect. Choosing boring is a very quiet kind of parenting. Regardless, let's zoom out one more time, because there is one detail nobody is talking about, and it might be the most important detail in the whole story. When Jaidyn Alexis said, on that unrelated Twitch stream, that she would not put her life on the line for someone who was not right for her, she was not just talking about Blueface. She was talking about a specific decision framework. She was saying, in public, that risk is now something she measures. Cars, relationships, households, live streams, public statements. She is telegraphing a shift from reactive to strategic. And in a story that has run on reactive energy for years, a woman announcing that she is now strategic is a bigger threat to the format than any subliminal could ever be. A subliminal is content. Strategy is a whole different genre. Blueface built a brand on unpredictability. Crazy Rock built her chapter on volatility. Nevaeh Akira, so far, is presenting stability. Jaidyn Alexis, in this new phase, is presenting something the machine has never had to metabolize before: deliberateness. Slow, quiet, absolutely not in a hurry deliberateness. That is a variable this ecosystem does not know how to price. That is a variable that resists thumbnails. That is a variable that turns a reaction video into a shrug. And so the question that every gossip account is asking, what will Jaidyn do next, is the wrong question. The question is what she will not do. She will not chase a headline. She will not fire a subliminal on demand. She will not deliver the meltdown the algorithm keeps reaching for. That is a bigger business decision than most of the audience realizes. That is a woman rewriting the value of her own name in real time. That is a woman saying, without ever announcing it, that her image is not a public utility anymore. And speaking of value, brace yourself, because this is the part most reaction videos will not touch. Nevaeh Akira's caption on those maternity photos hinted at a due date and a kind of quiet, domestic optimism that stood in deliberate contrast to the noise around Blueface's other relationships. That framing is intentional. That framing is a brand choice. Jaidyn Alexis, in that same cooking stream, said she is stable up here and down here, a phrase pointing to her mental state and her financial state simultaneously. That is a specific, layered flex. She was telling her audience, in one line, that she is not emotionally shaken and not financially shaken. In a public breakup where the ex has been accusing her of endangering their children and where the ex has just gifted a car to his new partner, stable up here and down here is not a throwaway line. It is a mission statement. It is Jaidyn Alexis telling her audience that the era of reacting to Blueface news cycle is closed, that the checkpoint has been decommissioned, that the reaction shot is not being filmed today or tomorrow or ever again if she can help it. Let's talk about Carlisa Saffold for a second, because she is the connective tissue in this entire story, and she almost never gets treated as such. Blueface's mother has publicly congratulated the new pregnancy. She has framed the children broadly as blessings. Her visible presence across each of these chapters signals a family that has decided public commentary is preferable to private silence. What makes her role interesting is that she gives every new partner a kind of family-side validation that the Blueface brand itself no longer reliably provides. When Carlisa Saffold posts, it functions like an endorsement. When Carlisa Saffold reacts, it functions like editorial. And that means every relationship Blueface enters has a second author co-writing it in real time from a matriarchal position, which is a very unusual arrangement, and one that shapes how every new partner has to strategize her own public presence from the beginning. Which brings us back to Jaidyn Alexis because Jaidyn Alexis is the only partner in this ecosystem who no longer requires anyone else's endorsement to be legible. She has her own audience now. She has her own income streams. She has her own children, in her own home, on her own schedule. She does not need Carlisa Saffold to validate her. She does not need Blueface to acknowledge her. She does not need the internet's approval to keep her calm. She has already built a room she is standing in that does not require anybody else's permission to enter. That is a rare position for a woman inside a story like this to hold. That is a rare position for all three women are, in effect, arguing with a format one of them helped invent. And Jaidyn Alexis, right now, is arguing with it by refusing to participate in it. Now, there is one more piece I want to press on before I let y'all go, because it matters and nobody is saying it plainly. The framing that spread across the aggregators, that Jaidyn Alexis accuses Blueface of endangering her reading, is a framing decision the aggregators made, not a claim Jaidyn Alexis made. She did not name him. She did not tie the sentence to the accident. She did not stand up in a chair, point at the camera, and issue an accusation. She said a general thing about who she is willing to be in a partnership with going forward. The gossip industry took that general thing and pointed it at Blueface, because Blueface is the story the gossip industry knows how to sell. That is a fact about the industry, not a fact about Jaidyn Alexis. And it is worth being careful with the difference. Because in a media environment where every ambiguous statement gets collapsed into the loudest possible headline, the person being paraphrased almost never gets the version of themselves that made the paraphrase possible. One last thing before I let y'all go. Jaidyn Alexis did not audition for the role of the ex who reacts. She was cast in it by an audience that needed a recurring character. Every time Blueface entered a new chapter, the writer's room in the comment section wrote her back in. And that reflex, that automatic recasting, is the exact thing her calm just interrupted. When Jaidyn Alexis refused to give the audience a meltdown, she did not just decline a scene. She quit the show. She turned in the pages. She walked out of the writer's room. And a show that has been running for the better part of a decade suddenly has a hole in the ensemble that nobody knows how to plug. Whoever the aggregators try to slide into that hole next, Chrisian Rock, Carlisa Saffold, a new anonymous baby mama voice. None of them fill the specific slot Jaidyn Alexis was carrying. Because the slot was not just X. The slot was the woman who reacts with feeling. Nevaeh Akira does not fill that slot. Chrisian Rock has aged out of it. Carlisa Saffold has never sat in it. Jaidyn Alexis sat in it for years. She just stood up. That empty chair is louder than any tweet she could have posted. So here is where I need y'all in the comments. Because this one splits the room down the middle. On one side, you have the reading that Jaidyn Alexis is playing the long, dignified game. That her composure is a slow burn power move. That her calm is investment. That her silence about Nevaeh Akira is the healthiest signal she has ever sent. On the other side, you have the reading that this composure is itself a performance. That she is picking her spot to detonate. That the calm is coiled. And that when the strike comes it will be sharper for the weight. Both readings are defensible. Both readings have adherence. Both readings will find themselves the top comment in a different clip account. And both readings, if you follow them all the way down, tell you more about the reader than about Jaidyn Alexis. Where do you sit? Are you Team Composure, reading Jaidyn Alexis as a woman genuinely, finally, gone off the hamster wheel? Or are you Team Coiled? But the actual story, the one worth telling, is about a woman who has been narratively imprisoned in a man's timeline for the better part of a decade and who, quietly, on a Monday, over a stove, appears to have opened her own door. Whether she walks through it, whether she runs, or whether she pauses on the threshold for a beat longer to make a point is what the next chapter will show us. But the door is unlocked now. And the person holding the key is not Blueface, not Nevaeh Akira, not Chrisian Rock, not Carlisa Saffold, not the gossip industry. It is her. Tell me where you land in the comments. Is Jaidyn Alexis finally free, or is she just choosing the perfect moment? Either way, this story is not slowing down. Blueface is not slowing down. Nevaeh Akira has a due date on the calendar. Carlisa Saffold has an opinion loaded and ready. Chrisian Rock is one Instagram live away from any of it. And Jaidyn Alexis is standing at her stove, on her stream, on her own timeline. And for the first time in a long time, she is the one deciding when the scene ends. I'll be watching the next stream with you. See you at the next one.